He's looking, and then as soon as he passes that by, then I start down low. It's good to have Gary back with us, isn't it?
Yay!
Not that I wasn't good, it's just much better. We all agree. All right.
And happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day. My wife read a little article on Facebook about St. Patrick. A lot of things I didn't know about St. Patrick. Like his real name wasn't Patrick. When he, I guess that was his ordained name. And he actually was never a saint, other than people think he was. So they celebrate him as a saint. He was never canonized as a saint. None of that matters, right? And the other thing is that he brought back drinking on his favorite day. So that was actually not something we did, but he instituted it. So had a little strong drink on this day. Anyway, well, I hope you have a good St. Patrick's Day. Stay away from the green beer. That never ends well. This Wednesday, Sharon and I are putting on a luncheon here, and you're all invited. We would like an opportunity to thank you all for all of the well wishes and cards and thoughts and prayers around the death of my mother. And my mom loved pasties. She came here and made pasties on several occasions for the Wednesday group. So I'm sure they won't be as good as hers, but we're going to give it our best shot. So 11:30 this Wednesday, there's no free will offering. Just come and have a pasty lunch and celebrate being together. And hopefully it won't be too cold out. It is going to be cold, but just bundle up. We'll be fine. Last week we had a bread bake, and we broke the record for number of loaves. We had 382 loaves of bread come out of our bread oven in a day. That's a lot. Some of you were here, and you look tired still, some of you. So it was a big undertaking. All right. Well, let us stand, and we'll join in our call to worship. One more announcement. Monday, Thursday of Holy Week, we have for the last several years been jointly doing a meal, an upper room experience. And this year it's going to be at St. Mark's at 6 o'clock. It is kind of a candlelight dinner. We're having roast pork, and it'll be nice. It's sort of an experiential worship that leads us into the Last Supper experience. So if you want to go to that, let me know so we can, or you can let Joe know, and we'll get a head count, just so we know how many people to prepare for. All right, let us draw near to God.
Let us put down the weights we carry.
Let us open ourselves to God's Spirit.
Let us come again to be filled.
Open our hearts to receive your love.
Make us a vessel of your love for the world.
Today's reading is from the book of Mark. As he came out of the temple, one of his disciples said to him, "Look, teacher, what large stones and what large buildings." Then Jesus asked him, "Do you see these great buildings? Not one stone will be left here upon another. All will be thrown down." When he was sitting on the Mount of Olives, opposite the temple, Peter, James, John, and Andrew asked him privately, "Tell us, when will this be? And what will be the sign that all these things are about to be accomplished?" Then Jesus began to say to them, "Beware that no one leads you astray. Many will come in my name and say, I am he, and they will lead many astray. When you hear of wars and rumors of wars, do not be alarmed. This must take place, but the end is still to come. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be earthquakes in various places. There will be famines. This is but the beginning for the birth pangs. But in those days, after that suffering, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light, and the stars will be falling from heaven, and the powers in the heavens will be shaken. Then they will see the Son of Man coming in clouds with great power and glory. Then he will send out the angels and gather the elect from the four winds and from the ends of the earth to the ends of heaven. From the fig tree, learn its lesson. As soon as its branch becomes tender and puts forth its leaves, you know that summer is near. So also, when you see these things taking place, you know that he is near, at the very gates. Truly I tell you, this generation will not pass away until all things have taken place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. But about that day or hour, no one knows, neither the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. Beware, keep alert, for you do not know when the time will come. It is like a man going on a journey, when he leaves home and puts his slaves in charge, each with his work, and commands the doorkeeper to be on the watch. Therefore, keep awake, for you do not know when the master of the house will come, in the evening, or at midnight, or at cockcrow, or at dawn, or else he may find you asleep when he comes suddenly. And I say to you, I say to all, keep awake. Here ends today's reading.
Hello. Well, this collection from the 13th chapter of Mark, we almost never get all of these scriptures side by side, these little stories. In the other lectionary, we might take one or a different one, and they mean something different when you take them all together than they could mean individually. So I'm glad for this opportunity. Jesus was speaking in the temple and riling everybody up. He got there, and the first thing he did in the last week of his life leading up to Passover is he knocked over the tables of the money changers, and he called them thieves. The people who ran the temple, he called them thieves. He said, "This is a den of robbers." That probably didn't go over too well with them. But the people were with Jesus. The average people who came here were so excited to hear him speak and to see and to hear about the miraculous things he has done wherever he went. And he came to speak truth to power. And he told them that beware of the scribes who wear long robes and they say really long prayers so that everyone will notice them. Or beware of the rich people putting all this money into the treasury and showing everybody how much they're giving. There's a little woman with 2 copper coins. She is given more. He's really getting them worked up. And then he takes a break and he goes, and as they're leaving the temple, Peter says, "Wow, look at the size of these stones." And I think Jesus is beside himself. He's like, what, do you not get what I'm doing here? Like, I'm here to completely turn upside down the way the world works. I'm trying to help you see that God's kingdom is different than the kingdoms that men set up. These stones here and every other stone, they'll eventually fall apart. I don't believe Jesus was predicting what happened to the temple. I think biblical studies have been hijacked by this little section because they're saying, well, Jesus was predicting the destruction of the temple, which historically happened in 70. And so they say this Mark, the Gospel of Mark, must have been written around year 69 or 68, as Jesus was predicting the fall of the temple. I think Jesus, from sitting with this for a while, I think Jesus is frustrated with what he's trying to do, and people aren't getting it. He's saying the kingdoms that men set up, where power is the number one goal, power over, power to rule, is not God's way. God's way is much different than that. God's way is like the way of the woman with the 2 copper coins. Vulnerable, humble. He points out a little olive bush. And he says, the olive bush knows when summer is coming. It starts to become tender, and it puts out shoots. It's a great contrast between the large brick facades of all of these buildings. Now, the Roman emperor, one of the things he did when he conquered a place is he would take their holy shrines, their large buildings that were supposed to show their power, and he would dismantle them. And then he would rebuild them somewhere else. He was really good at that. And it was like this, hey, you want to see your monuments? Come to Rome, you can see them. That's why there's so many monuments in Rome. They took them from other places and reassembled them. It's like one last, you don't control your own destiny. We do. That's power over. And then Jesus tells people to stay awake, to be alert. And he uses this metaphor, this little parable about a man who goes off on a journey, and he leaves his place, and he puts slaves in charge of it. Now, you might want to think this is God. And maybe the slaves are the workers in the temple. But he's not talking to the masses, he's talking to Peter. He's talking to his inner circle. And he's explaining to them. The guy who conquers a land and leaves, that's the emperor in Rome. And he lets you run it for him, but he takes all the money in taxes. That's kind of like being a slave. And you need to worry about when he's coming. All of these passages in this had the effect of scaring the daylights out of me as a kid. We would read this, and the sun is going to turn black, and the moon will no longer give its light, and stars will fall from the heavens. Jesus is telling about what happens to the kingdoms of this world. Whatever we build and think we're so great at building and amazing and we have no need for God, we have everything we need, we're self-sufficient. Eventually, power over causes those around to rebel. When there's so few people with power and so many powerless, it brings about revolution. And the stars fall from heaven. But the little olive tree is more like God's kingdom, where it seems like it's dead. All winter it's dormant, and then all of a sudden it springs to life. A new life. It's like death and resurrection. My favorite part of this section is when he says, you will have people who come and say, I am. In English we say, I am he, the translation. But in Hebrew, it is I am, ego eimi in Greek. It is what God said to Moses is his name. People will claim to be gods. They will come and they will lead people astray. They will tell them that the world is coming to an end, that these wars and rumors of wars, and everything, we might say, hell in a handbasket. People, I'm sure there are lots of preachers who stand up and say, our world is going down. Just look around. The inner cities are full, and there's violence and the bad drivers. I mean, you could just really get caught up in all of the death and destruction going on in the world. But Jesus says, don't be alarmed. All of those things, they take place. They naturally take place. But God's kingdom is something else. And no matter what kind of kingdoms come, they will all pass away. But my word will not pass away. And at the end of your life, when you breathe your last breath, God meets you and brings new life, just like the fig tree.